Hey guys, what's going on? This is Atrava here, and today we're going to see how to use Prisma in Next.js. So if you don't already know, Prisma is an abstraction layer between your server and your database, and the server is specifically a TypeScript server. And if you ask why this abstraction, it's to remove all the use of the native queries your database uses, like all the SQL queries, MySQL and Postgres stuff uses, and instead using it in a more friendly, in a more TypeScript functions way. And it's more like a query builder for you, and you can connect a lot of databases using it, including MongoDB and relational databases. So it plays very friendly with your TypeScript app. So let's jump into it. So I have made this Next.js application. So if you don't already have a Next.js application, you can do npx create next app and the project name, and I assume you should already know that if you're watching this video. So yeah, let's get started with installing the Prisma packages and stuff and setting up Prisma in your Next.js application. So this is my terminal, and we are going to install a few packages here. So I'm going to use pnpm. So if you're using yarn or if you're using npm, you might use your favorite package manager. So I'm using pnpm, so pnpm install. So the first dependencies we are going to install are developer dependencies. So we are going to add d here, and then we are going to have .env CLI, and we are going to see why exactly. And the next one we need is Prisma, and this is going to be a dev dependency. So yeah, let's click enter and let's wait for this to install. So .env CLI we are installing because by default Prisma uses .env file from your project to pick up all the database details. But since we are using a Next.js application and they recommend .env.local, we need to override that to use .env.local. So that's why we use this, and we will be creating scripts in our package.json. Now we need to install some regular dependencies. So pnpm install, it should be at Prisma /client, and I think that's it. So let's click enter. This should not take a lot of time, and yeah, perfect. Now Prisma has a very handy command to automatically set up a Prisma thing in your project. So to do that, you need to do pnpx prisma init, and this will just set up Prisma for you in your Next.js application automatically, and you don't need to do anything else. And if you see all of these things, your project should now have a Prisma directory, and you should have a schema.prisma here. Plus you should also have a .env file, which we will rename to .env.local because we are using Next.js, and by default Next.js git ignores .env.local. However, if you want to use .env and add it to git ignore, that's fine as well. But since we are doing this in the Next.js application, I want to really keep it to how Next.js recommend things. So yeah, if you think this is overly complicated, you can simply use env file. Now we have this database URL. This is using Postgres, but before we change anything here, I want to make sure that our .env file, so that our Prisma, Prisma uses the correct env file we need. So let's go to package.json file here, and here we need to create a few scripts. So I'll just copy those scripts here, and then we'll go one by one on these. So Prisma generate command is used to generate any types. So if you look at node modules, there should be a Prisma thing, and it should contain all of your types of all the models you create here. So we don't need to look at them, but you need to do this generate command when you are deploying it to a production environment. Then migrate dev is used to make any changes if there are any changes you make to your model. If you want them to reflect in your database, you need to run this command in development environment, and there is one for production, and there is a Prisma Studio one, which okay, let's save that for later. It's a pretty cool feature, so let's save that for later. And what these commands are basically doing is npx.env, and we are using the .env.local file, and then we are running all of these commands. So basically prefixing this tells the next command that hey, from now your environment variable file is .env.local and you're not using .env anymore. So yeah, that's what it's basically doing. Now let's save the file, and in this tutorial we are simply going to create a new post thing, something like Twitter, but not exactly Twitter. So this is going to be a place where you write post, and if you click on post, the post should go here. I think I have stopped the server, so I need to start it again. Perfect. Let's see, let's write hello world. If we click on post, this should appear here, and all of these are already in the database. So let's get this away and let's work on our barebone app, and let's get towards the goal. Let's stop this server, let's go back here. Now we will do npm dev, and we are going to run the server for our current Next.js application. Perfect. Now let's create a new model. So for this one, for the one we have, for the project I just shown, there will be a post model, and let's create that first. So model, so if you are using VS Code, there is a handy extension called as Prisma in the VS Code store. So you can just go here and search for Prisma, and you can just install this. And if you don't install this, you won't get all the syntax highlighting and the code suggestions, so I highly recommend installing this. It will make your life a lot easier. So we are going to type model here, model post, and this should have a few things. So first of all, yeah, Copilot is doing everything for me, but let's just write this, because we are going to do a lot of copy pasting in the UI part, because it's not really relevant, and since this is the database part, it's important. So we are specifying this, that it's an ID, and by default it will have an auto increment. So by default it will, if there is no ID specified, it will auto increment from the previous ID in the database. And then we will have created at, which will be a date time, and it will basically be the default value will be now, so that when the record is created, it will be the timestamp of that time itself. Then we will have updated at. So Prisma has this cool updated at tag already, so if you modify any changes modify stuff in your database, it will already be reflected in updated at. It's a pretty cool feature. And then we were going to have a content, which is going to be a string. If we save this file, I think Prettier doesn't like to work here, but let me get a more formatted version of this so that it looks good. This should work too, but I just wanted to keep it a little better. Yeah, perfect. Now the thing is that we don't really have a database here, and for local development environments we could do something like installing a Postgres local database in our computer, but it's a lot of work and I don't really want to do it for tutorials. So what we can do here is we can use an SQLite database, which really is just a small file which will have which will basically be your database, and it's very handy for local environments, so and for testing stuff. So we are going to change the provider to SQLite. The code sessions should work here, and in the database URL we will just go to env.local, and we will change the database URL to file : and now we can just specify the relative path from this schema.prisma. For now I'll just do dev.db. So when we migrate these changes, there will be a new database created inside this folder. So if you are wondering, this will not just work outside the box already. You need to migrate these changes to make sure these changes you just now made, for in our case is creating a model, is reflecting in the database. To do that, we are going to run the command which we created here. So it's the migrate dev command. So let's just copy this, let's go to our terminal, let's open a new terminal and do npm migrate dev. Now it says SQLite database dev.db created at this location, and now we can see that this is dev.db thing. Perfect. And now the cool thing about our script, which was like Prisma Studio, I was hiding from you. Now it's the time to unveil that. And let's try to use that command, and you can see the migration is not completed, so I forgot to type. So it's like enter a new for the new migration. It's same like a commit message. So if we type in it, it's done. And now we should see a migrations folder, and if you look at it in the migration SQL, you will have all the SQL code which will lead us back to the changes we made here. So in this case, we created a post model, and it is creating a post table in a SQLite database. Sorry for not having a lot of attention here. So yeah, now let's do npm Prisma Studio. I was just excited about Prisma Studio, to be completely honest. Let's click enter. I want to open this in YouTube. Perfect. Move here. Now we have a built-in database explorer with Prisma. In this case, it's just exploring our sqlite database. If you had some kind of postgresql stuff or even MongoDB, it would allow you to browse the database here and even add records here. So we can just do an add record, and we can just create content here. So this post directly comes from database. We can just click somewhere else, and we can click save and changes, and boom, it's added to the database. It's a pretty handy feature in testing environments where you really need to quickly check the database and see what's really happening, instead of like logging into your credentials and stuff, or really opening your applications for Postgres and stuff. It's Prisma Studio really comes in handy. And we created our first post through the database, and we are going to display it in the app. So let's go back to VS Code. Now all of this is sorted out, and we don't need to check this again. So let's close this migration folder. Now what we need to do is we need to create a new server folder here. So let's call it server, and let's create a new file called prisma.ts, and this file helps us to manage our Prisma connection with Next.js. And the thing with Next.js is that whenever you create a new API call, sometimes the server goes to sleep, and when you wake it back up, a new Prisma instance is created. And if you create a new Prisma instance in every single API call, it will create like 10 different instances, and it will really slow down your performance, or it might lead to you reaching your limits in your database provider. So to tackle that, we can simply go to our browser, and the Prisma team really has a good snippet to take care of. So we can just search for Prisma Next.js, and we can just click here. So we have this link, best practice for instantiating Prisma client with Next.js, so they know what's really happening. So they say a lots of users have come across this warning while working with Next.js in development. There are already 10 instances of Prisma client actively running. So yeah, as I said, it will just keep creating instances, and it will really cost you a lot. So if it will cost you a lot if it really costs you for having multiple connections. So let's copy this. We can just use this copy button. So, and let's go back to our VS Code. Let's paste this. So what this file is doing, it's creating one Prisma instance, and it's going to maintain it. We are going to maintain this across the entire server, and we are going to use this Prisma variable we are extracting, and we are going to keep using this. And if for some reason if the server sleeps, it automatically creates a new Prisma instance. So they really have this script for production ready, so you don't really need to worry about it. We can just click cross, and now we can start working. So let's go to our pages directory. Let's go to index.tsx, but before, let's go to localhost 3000 here, because we haven't even opened the app, which is funny. Hold on, what happened? Okay, now we see this Next.js thing. Now we need to remove everything. We don't really need anything here, so let's go back here. Let's remove everything from inside the main. And for the UI, I'm not going to use a lot of time here, so we are going to have some style for the main tag. So I'll just copy it and paste it here. If you want, of course you can use Tailwind and stuff, but since this is a specific database tutorial for Next.js, I don't really want to go in that. It will just waste your time. So yeah, now we have this JSX. I'll just copy this and paste it for you, and we're going to see what this exactly is. So first of all, we have a text area which says write a post, and then we have a button, and then we map all the posts, and we haven't really got the posts yet, so we are going to do that, but let's work towards that first. And this is basically the same UI which I showed you moments ago. So let's first work on getting the posts. So I'll just remove this on click and stuff. We don't really need this. We can probably create the states right now, so let's create the state for the text box. So constant, let's remove react dot. Let's auto import useState. Perfect. And now yeah, I think it should be fine. Now we need to, the method we are going to use to get the posts is going to be using get server side props in Next.js. If you don't know what that is, which is highly unlikely, I'm pretty sure you all must know. It's basically before the page loads, the server already fetches the data for you and passes it as props, and we are also yet to get the props here. So let's go here and do export async function get server side props, and we don't really need a contact, so we are just going to leave it empty. And now we are going to, okay, it's going to suggest as dummy data, copilot be like copilot, so yeah, we don't really need to do that. So let's get the post. So how easy is it to get posts? So we are going to do const post is equal to Prisma. We are going to auto import it dot copilot, shut up please, post dot find many. And if you look at post dot, there are a lot of different things. Basically, instead of using query, you can basically interact with these functions. It's going to be a lot more cleaner in your code, and it is type safe. So if you're creating a new post, it's very type safe. It will automatically prompt you what you really need and what you don't. So yeah, so in this case we just need find many, and we are going to leave it to that because we want all the posts. And now we are going to do return props posts, and we're going to leave it there. And this code is going to cause an error, but let's just try to run this anyways. So we are going to have props of posts here, and it's going to say that we need a type. So let's just create a type. So type post posts, I think it's props, sorry. And here we're going to have posts, which is going to have the type of, okay, now this is interesting. How do you know how to get the type of this? One option would be like to create a new type of getting like creating new type with all these data types, and the second would be just being an intelligent person and using the using the types that Prisma created for you. So you can just go ahead and type post, and you can already see it's importing for Prisma client. So you can just do this, and yeah, since it's an array, we can just do this. Perfect. And now we can just specify this that this has props. Perfect. Pretty amazing. Now I think this should work. Oh no, we will have an error. Interesting, cannot read properties of an, okay, so reloading fixed that, but then we have this error, the error which I wanted to show you, error serializing dot posts. And reason object cannot be serialized as JSON. So what really is happening here is when we are fetching the post, it has date time object, and it really isn't converting it back to JSON. So Next.js isn't doing that, and we cannot directly transfer objects back to the client side. So since it cannot transfer object to the client side, it's throwing us the error. A simple way to fix this is simply going to be creating an object that can be passed into JSON and sent back to our client side. So to do that, we are going to create a new object. So JSON.parse, and we're going to do JSON.stringify, and we're going to do post. So what this exactly is doing is, first of all, it's going to stringify our post object into a JSON. So it's plain JSON, and then we're going to use JSON parse to create it into an object, and these objects are serializable and these can be transferred back to our front end. Now this should work. Let's go back to our browser. Let's reload. Post.map is not a function, and that's really interesting because this should really work. Prisma.post.find many. Post JSON.parse. But this is supposed to be an array, right? So what really is happening here? I think I know what the array is all about. Maybe, yeah, we missed the await here. So maybe it's just returning a promise and it's never converting back to JSON. So yeah, let's try again. Yeah, now we already have our first post, which is like this post directly comes from our database. And yeah, if we go back to our Prisma Studio and if we type something else, so definitely it does. We are going to update this, and now let's save on changes, and you can see the updated ad changed. If you're not really sure, you can just go back 5 seconds and see it really changed after we clicked on save. So yeah, let's go here and now reload this page. It says definitely changed. So you know that this is really pulling up from a database, and we are not using any fake dummy data. Of course we are using dummy data, but we are not really using a fake array or something like that. So I think this is finished. Getting the post is done. Now we need to work on creating a post, and we cannot do this in a get server side process because we need to make it so that when a person clicks on this button, the post should be created. So there are a lot of ways to do this, and there might be a lot of efficient ways to do this, but I really want to just not focus on the React part and not really focus on the best way to refetch all the data. I just really want to get this done and explain you how to really work with Prisma in a Next.js application. I'm pretty sure you all are very intelligent enough to come up with different ideas and make this as efficient as possible if you want to. So yeah, and plus this is not a tutorial on optimization and stuff. If you want something like that, please leave that in the comments below, and yeah, I'll make that tutorial for you. So yeah, now I think we need to go to the API folder and let's create a new file called create post.ts. So this is going to be our new API route. So let's just copy this. Okay, you know what, I'm going to copy the entire thing, paste it. We don't need the data, it's too much work, and let's remove the comment. Perfect. And now here we are going to have some backend logic. So let me just open it here so that, okay, so there are a few things we are going to do here. First of all, we are going to make this an asynchronous function, and now we are going to have a try catch block here, and if there's an error, we are going to simply do console.error, and then we are going to just pass in a response that hey, there is an error in a server. So rest.status 500, and we are going to say .json message internal server error. We are done with the catch block, and now let's start with the try block. So we are going to check the method. So if request.method is not equal to post, so if the user sends a get request or stuff, then we are going to return and we are not going to execute any further, and we are just going to return an error. So rest.status, this is going to be 405, and .json, this is going to have a message, method not allowed. Perfect. And now if everything is okay, we are just going to do const, we are going to destructure, we are going to get content out of the body of the request, and we are going to do request.body. So we are going to get the content out of the request body, and we haven't made the part where we send the request yet. We are just expecting that the API call will send a object with content having a string. So we are just assuming that, and we are just working on that. So const new post is equal to await prisma dot post dot create, and now here we can say data, and now here's where all the fun part starts. You can just do control space, or it's control space on both Windows and Mac. You can see all the things. So here we only need the content, so it picks up that we need content, and we can just leave it here because it will pick up from here. Now this new post, after the post is created, this new post object will have the specific record of it. We can just send it back through our response, or if it has any sensitive data, you should not send it back to the app, but since this is just a dummy thing, we can just send it back. So rest.status, you know what, I'm going to copy this. It's going to take a lot of time to type this. So it basically says rest status 200, post created successfully, and then we're going to pass the new post here. And I'm pretty sure there will be some problem in parsing here as well. So let's just, okay, I don't think that problem is there for API routes. I think it's only for server side rendering. But anyways, let's go back to our index.tsx file, and now we need to create a new function that makes an API request, and we are not going to use a lot of time here, and I will run through the code. So let's just paste this here and see what really it does. So this is a function called as create post, and what it basically doing is creating a post request to /API/create post. So it is the route which we created just now, and in the body we are going to pass the JSON with the content, which will be in the state. So whatever you type in the input box will be updated in the state, and we are going to pass in the state here, and then we are just going to tell through the headers that hey, this is JSON data. And if there is a problem with the response, we are just going to alert out, you know what, we are not going to alert out this, we are going to alert out first we need to get the data. So const data is equal to await response dot JSON. So now here we're going to type out data dot message, or something went wrong. So you see that here we have passed in message in all error cases, so we can just pass it down here, or if it still doesn't have for whatever reason, we can just say something went wrong. Now I think this should be enough. We need to pass this function into our button, so let's go here and say on click create post, and I think this should be done. So we are also reloading the document once it's done, and this is the reason, as I said, I don't want to really waste a lot of time in refetching. If you're using like React query and stuff, you can really do that. And one more thing I really wanted to point out here is like, you really don't know what data you are getting back here unless you are using some kind of specific types here. But yesterday, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I think I created a new video on TRPC, and TRPC really helps you create some type safe backends in TypeScript. And if you're using Next.js, it's more easier. You get all of the code suggestions and stuff, and a lot of type safety. So if you want to check that video out, I think it will be here somewhere or here, not really sure. It depends on the editing, but yeah, let's go, and I think it should work. So let's reload this. Let's type a new post, and this one is coming from the app directly. Let's post this. Perfect. Now it's in the database. Now we can just keep on adding new things and stuff. So we can just say subscribe to this channel and just post this. Boom, it's here. By the way, you really should subscribe to this channel if you really want some cool technical content from me and some dope tutorials. I'm really bad at speaking. Okay, so let's go back to Prisma Studio and let's reload this, and you should see these two things. And yeah, pretty fun. It's Prisma. I just like Prisma Studio. I cannot stop appreciating it. Now let's go back to VS Code, and now I really want to tell you how to set this up to deploy in production environment. We are not going to deploy it in production environment, but if you really want to do that, you just need to change your database URL here to whatever you want. If it's a MongoDB thing, you need to use a connect URL, or if it's Postgres or stuff, you need to use a connect URL as well. And then you need to go to schema Prisma and need to change this to something else. So if you're using Prisma supports all of these stuffs: CockroachDB, MongoDB, MySQL, PostgresQL, sqlite, and SQL Server. So yeah, but we are going to stick to SQLite here. You can just choose whatever you want and it will start working. And in production, what you want to do is for the build script, it's for the production script, what you should do, okay, you know what, we should create a new productions build production. So we need to do something. So first of all, let's do this stuff. We really need this. Then we need to do migrate npx prisma. No, we need to use the npm run migrate, and then we need to do npm run build. Oh, we need to also do npm run generate to generate the latest typings if they are not already done, and we need to do npm run build, and this will point back to our Next.js build function. So if you are deploying this to Vercel, make sure this is your build command and not the regular build one. And what this will basically do is, like, if you have any migrations and stuff, it will automatically perform all the migrations on your production database just while deploying the application to production. So it's very handy and it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that's it for the tutorial. So yeah, that's it for this video. In this video, we saw how to use Prisma in your Next.js application and all the specific stuff about Prisma. So if you really liked this video and if you found value in this video, I would really appreciate if you like this video and subscribe to this channel. It will really help me create a lot more tutorials and bring value to you more. And yeah, if you have any more ideas about future videos and stuff, make sure you leave them in the comments below and I will make sure to make them. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. All of the code will be posted in the description below. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.